lifestyle, holy place, as a Babaji or a renunciant, you can live on practically nothing in India. But as a foreigner, you have to deal with the visa issue. You can only stay in India 6 months at a time on a tourist visa. You have to get an entry visa to stay longer than that. And even then you can only stay up to 5 years maximum. So you have to have enough funds to be able to travel outside and renew your visa and like that. If you depend on having nice facilities, then you have to expect to pay, well, it depends on, for technological type equipment and stuff like that, the cost is the same. So for computers, electronics, the electricity bill itself, that's pretty much the same as you would pay in any developed country. The things that are cheap in India are the things that are produced locally. And even then, cheap is relative to the kind of income you have. If somebody's on retirement or something like that, they can live fairly comfortable in India. But if a person literally has no money or very, very little money, then they're not going to be comfortable. They're not going to have a nice place unless they live in an ashram or something like that. And the society in India is so different. It's like you really have to be into the culture to live among the general mass of people. It's good for Westerners to be a little bit separate, a little bit apart. Like take first class train instead of second or, what to speak of, third. I've taken third class train in India. I can get away with it. You probably could get away with it. It's like you have to keep the goats out of your seat. Chickens. And I'm not kidding either. I'm laughing, but I'm not joking.
Yeah.
And even second class, everybody's crammed in like sardines. You got people sitting on the luggage rack, sitting out, out the windows, out the doors, on the roof. It's nuts. So, so it's good if we always travel like first class, and we have, we engage servants to clean and to a certain extent for cooking, at least for prep. Devotees should not eat food cooked by low-class people. This is very important because it can affect your consciousness. So we should never eat at restaurants, even in India, or maybe I should say especially in India, because they're going to be using low-class ingredients, contaminated ingredients. We found out recently that most of the ghee in India contains animal fat, so it's not suitable for devotees. And so, you have to have a source of uncontaminated milk and food and like that. And so to do all that requires some means, some substance, or you have to have your own means of production. It's not easy to stay healthy in India. You need to have access to doctors and Ayurvedic treatments and herbs and stuff like that, or you can't maintain your health. Because India has been lived in for a long time, and there are places that are very contaminated. And when you're traveling especially, you have to go through that, you have to deal with that. So you have to have some means to live comfortably in India. It's like living any place, it's like you get what you pay for. And if you can afford nice quarters, then you'll be so much more comfortable, unless your purpose is to perform austerities. That's a different thing, If you want to go up in Rishikesh and sit next to the source of the Ganges and, freeze your little loincloth off, well, you can do that. But how long can you take that? Most Westerners, they last about a week. And then they come down with some disease, or they'll just get tired, or the constant crush of so many people and having no privacy, and so many things that wear you down. So in India, it's good to have a nice place to live and some means so that you don't have to be like poor, because being poor in India is pretty rough, and even the people who live there and are used to it, they don't last very long. Their life expectancy is very short, 40 or 50 years. So try to realize that India is an environment that contains much more possibilities than the West. The West is so organized, is so regimented, and so controlled. India is just kind of wide open and chaotic, and there's like a whole bunch of different kinds of people that you never saw before in your life, wearing all these wild clothes and speaking all these languages that you can't understand at a million miles an hour. And you just take a walk through the typical Indian train station, and in 5 minutes you'll be exposed to more languages than you ever heard in your life till now. So and all at top speed. So it's a whole different culture, and you really need a place where you can take shelter and have privacy and be clean and take care of yourself like that. So it does require some means. And if you want me to name a figure, I really can't. But it depends on where you are and the conditions of the economy and exchange rate. It's complicated. But, real life is complicated. And the thing that I love about India is that it has so much freedom. You can really express yourself, you can really be who you are, and people will respect that, unless you insult them. Then they'll pound you into bits. So, as long as you're peaceful and you're happy doing whatever it is you want to do, then you'll get along fine in India. I never had any trouble with India. But, I've heard the horror stories where people will go and get into an argument with the coconut seller and almost get torn to pieces by the huge crowd that develops, and and all this over 5 rupees. I mean, come on. It's like you have to be ready to. When you're in India, you have to be forbearing. You have to be ready to forgive people's accidental offenses. It's just the way it is. You'll get a coconut for 10 rupees, and the local kids will come up and buy them for 5 right in front of you. And if you want to make a big deal out of it, well, okay, you could ruin your day that way, but it's probably not a very good idea. So, but if you go to India, I would say the best thing to do is plan to go for 3 months the first time. 3 to 6 months. That's a tourist visa that'll get you that much time in India. And just check it out. It might be that it's not for you. So, any more questions?
Yes. From Marino. Dear Babaji, please accept my humble obeisances. So we all have to become expert in our talents given by Kṛṣṇa so that we can participate in his pastimes. Self-realization is not enough.
Well, what does self-realization mean? It means that we participate with Krishna in his pastimes. And what are Krishna's pastimes? We were just describing. They're all at the topmost height of artistic creativity. So if we're going to hang out with Krishna, then we have to be like that. It's just like, did you ever hang out with artists? Like when I was right out of college, well, even when I was in college, I was in music school. I was always surrounded by other musicians and artists and actors and painters and people like that. And these were all my friends. And then when I moved into New York City, when I started working as a composer, I lived in Greenwich Village. And everybody around me was some kind of actor or painter or artist or writer or freak, you know. And that's the thing about creative people, they're very original. They don't just follow the standard, orthodox, boring path. They have to do it in their own way, you know. And this is cool. This is like, Kṛṣṇa is fine with this. Try to understand. Kṛṣṇa, he is the topmost artist. He is not threatened at all by people being original and creative. In fact, he likes it because he's that way. So